It's very rare that I come across a recipe that is so simply stated and so beautifully written that I feel compelled to make it. This is one of those recipes. It comes from a book called Eat at Pleasure, Drink by Measure, and compiled by Olof Wijk. The recipe is for a beef stew that could hardly be easier to make, and yet it tastes wonderful. Using today's technology, I've recreated Olaf's voice so he can narrate the recipe whilst I cook it, and I like to think he would approve, even with my occasional thoughts and small adjustments. And this is how he wrote it.
Go to your butcher and buy a pound of the cheapest beef he can find. If you have any silly ideas about loss of face, you can always tell him that you are going to give your dog a treat.
You know, I don't think that's about being thrifty. I think it's about understanding that those tough cuts of meat are the best for slow cooking for both flavour and texture.
Cut this meat, box cut, shin, chuck, or whatever it may be, into neat matchbox size pieces. Neatness at this stage is important, as it will give a professional look to the finished dish.
And this is chuck steak, and it's 600 grams.
Fry these pieces in a little fat until browned on all sides, and then put them into a saucepan.
And it's important to get a nice brown colour, a nice sear on both sides of the meat, so I don't overcrowd the pan. I just work in 2 batches.
Cut up 2 medium onions and fry in the same pan until they turn golden. Then add 4 tomatoes cut in quarters, a few black or green olives, halved and stoned, a diced carrot, and a few slices of aubergine, if such is available. Allow all to fry together for a few moments. Add 1/2 teaspoonful thyme or mixed herbs, pepper and salt, and 2 cloves of garlic cut up into tiny pieces. Stir in 2 glasses of red wine.
Back in those days, a glass was smaller than it is these days. And so I measured these 2 glasses, and they both total 250 mils. And another thing I like to do is just bring this to the simmering point and just let it simmer gently for about 5 minutes, just to cook off any of those sharp notes of wine.
And then add to the meat in the saucepan. Add a little more wine, if necessary, just enough to cover the contents of the pan.
And I don't like to add any more wine because I feel it's too wine forward. I just add a tiny bit of water instead.
Put a piece of greaseproof paper over the saucepan and then ram the lid down as tight as you can.
And if you follow the fabulous Fallow Boys, you'll realise that this is a very rustic form of a cartouche.
Stew very, very gently for at least 4 hours.
And I prefer to put this in an oven because then it's set and forget, and it cooks it really evenly. And that's a very low oven. And either on the stove or in the oven, whichever you choose, have a little peek at it after the first hour just to see that it's slowly simmering. If it's too high, turn it down. If it's not moving at all, turn it up a fraction. And a lovely side dish to serve with this stew is simply chat or new potatoes boiled until they're tender and then tossed through with some parsley butter, and also the same with carrots. And this parsley butter recipe comes from Elizabeth David, and all you need to do for every 2 ounces of butter, you'll need 1.5 tablespoons of very finely chopped parsley. Now I just take a bowl, run some hot water and dry it, and then into the bowl place the butter and the parsley, and then work the butter and the parsley together. Add in a few drops of lemon juice to help it along. And she says to work it through until it's an absolutely homogeneous pomade. New potatoes or carrots with a little of this butter melting among them are exquisite. And roll it into sort of like a log shape. And then I just pop that in the fridge, and seriously that took about 10 minutes if that. So I can't pronounce the French term for this method.
Beurre Manié.
So I just call it kneaded butter. And basically it's the same amount of butter as flour. I probably made way more than I need. And I just work this together until it forms a sort of paste.
When you ultimately lift the lid, the glorious aroma of this superb stew will alter your whole view of life, even before you have discovered its even more glorious taste.
The meat is so tender you can cut it with a butter knife. So that had 3.5 hours, and now I'm going to finish it off on the stove. Now if you like it this consistency, you don't have to thicken it, but I like it a little bit thicker. So just a little bit at a time, I'll add this butter and flour mixture until it's the consistency I like. And that's almost it. I only needed a tablespoon of flour and a tablespoon of butter this time around. And now is the time to season it. Tastes so delicious, just a little bit more salt. It's just a habit of mine, but I just add 1 teaspoon of sugar just to balance it out. And this is probably enough for 4 people. It's quite rich. I really love these kinds of recipes. They resonate with me, not only because they taste delicious, but because they're a little bit of history, and a beautiful bit at that. And I'm going to leave you with a lovely little paragraph from the foreword of the book.
We all like to think that we know a lot about cooking and wine, but what really matters is the pleasure and measure that good food and wine give to us in the company of those whom we love.